It's 5 p.m. here in Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Here's what's coming up within the hour. Former U.S. President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris officially face off in the first presidential debate. Today is the 23rd anniversary of the September 11 attack in the United States. Plus, dozens arrested after clashes and violence in anti-war protests in Australia's Melbourne City. You're watching The World Today. It's a day after the first presidential debate between former U.S. President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. And both of them were at the 9/11 memorial this morning. We'll return to that later. However, last night, with one handshake and 90 minutes on the stand, the first presidential debate between both of them, that's Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, officially kicked off in Philadelphia. Hosted by ABC News, the 90-minute debate also marked the very first time both candidates have seen each other face-to-face. Stakes were high as the candidates faced questions about top issues, including the economy, immigration, and reproductive rights. The presidential candidates got a chance to pitch their vision for American voters, decided and undecided, with elections only weeks away now.
Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess.
Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics. Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should.
Well, staying with last night's debate, both candidates responded fiercely to questions about the wars in Ukraine and in Gaza. The debate saw the candidates responding to, Vice President Harris did accuse Trump of being willing to abandon U.S. support for Ukraine to curry favor with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. She actually said Putin would eat Trump for lunch. Trump insisted he would have ended the war before taking office if he was elected. There was very little mention, however, of the war in Gaza. Trump did say he will get that settled and fast, though he did not say how. Harris, on the other hand, repeated her support for Israel and the need for the hostages' release, but did not offer any specifics.
But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her.
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should. as a leader upholding international rules and norms. That the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out.
She hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party. I want the war to stop. I want to save lives.
If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch? Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me.
There were, of course, questions on race, Harris's race, that is. Trump was asked about his comment on Harris not being previously black and now being black, to which he responded, "Whatever she wants to be is okay with me," saying, "And I'll say that." And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Whether one is okay with me, that's up to her. The vice president, who is both black and South Asian, has said that this is tragic, that Trump has continuously used race to divide the American people.
All I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
I think honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people?
The VOA's Jackson Muganye is in Washington, D.C. Jackson, great to see you. And this was the very first time for former President Donald Trump and Vice President Harris to meet. What did the leaders in the White House, however, make of the debate last night?
Yeah, you're right. This was the first debate between these two candidates, and most likely the last one. They have not said or committed to any other debate aside from this. So yesterday, they had to put their best foot forward, so to say. And they did. In many ways, we saw Kamala Harris coming out, ready, for this challenge. It was the first time Americans were seeing her on this stage, on this platform. And she has debated before in public settings, but this is her first presidential debate with Donald Trump. And she really tapped into her former prosecutorial style in the way she was being, baiting Donald Trump, confronting him on issues, on things that he had said, on his past policies, talking about how Donald Trump left the country when he left power in 2020 with the worst health crisis in generations, with the worst economy in generations. Donald Trump pushing back, talking about how, in the last 4 years of President Biden and Kamala Harris's administration was not good for the economy, and so many other issues, especially around immigration, talking about how there was, open borders at the south of the border, many millions of immigrants streaming into the country, as he claims, and there was a pushback on many sides, both of them really tussling it out in this really key debate moment.
Yes, and right out the gate with the first question about, what they made of the last 4 years, none of them answered the question. But they did go on to attempt to answer questions on the economy, on immigration, reproductive rights, of course, America's foreign policy towards Ukraine and Gaza. But did they do justice to any of the questions last night?
I think a couple of questions. In this case, I think Kamala Harris really took advantage of the fact that she was ready for this moment. She came in, you can tell that she had some key points she wanted to touch upon, but also in a way bait Donald Trump. So she would answer her questions and present her case to the American people about how she will better their lives, including, in cases of childcare, giving, breaks to mothers, to parents, to young people that are trying to buy a new home, giving them tax credits and things of that nature. And then as she was, rounding up her answers, she would kind of bait Donald Trump with the kind of a low-hanging fruit. And then Donald Trump will really spend most of his time kind of answering that instead of answering the key issue, which is, what are you going to do better to advance or to make better the lives of Americans? So as we've seen, in the last couple of hours since the debate ended, many people, both on the right, on the left, commentators, analysts, think that Kamala Harris got the better of Donald Trump in this debate.
There was a lot of deflections last night, a lot of deviations from the topics that were being raised. And then I know the moderators also tried their best to rein in the conversation, even though they have faced some criticism. This morning, however, both candidates, Trump and Harris, both had to be present at the 9/11 memorial in Manhattan. How did they relate to each other? Another handshake? I think I saw that. Or was there cold ice between them?
Well, like you saw yesterday, Kamala Harris approached the stage. We weren't sure whether they're going to shake hands, but she walked to him, shook hands, introduced herself. And I think it was the first time both candidates actually meeting ever, because when during the handoff for the transition in 2020 or 2021, Donald Trump was not present right here at the Capitol where the swear is with, swearing in for the new presidency. So we did not, I think this is the first time we've seen these two candidates together, even shaking hands. Today, if Americans can agree on anything, it's about 9/11 and the tragedy that it was. And so for them to be in New York together on this occasion, marking over 20 years since the tragic events of 9/11, I think they wanted to show that cordiality, to show that, they at least if they will disagree on other things, but this they will agree upon.
Yes, and they had to work together. Back to the debate now. While the Russian President Vladimir Putin said he would not be watching the debate, he also encourages people not to either, because he says this is just for American voters, his right anyway. However, some officials of his government did watch the debate. Spokesperson Dmitry Peskov was one of them. He debunked Trump's claim that the war in Ukraine could have been ended with a phone call, saying that what was needed is for the U.S. to abandon its policy of using Ukraine as disposable material in an attempt to suppress everything connected with the Russian Federation. I wonder if the U.S. government has reacted to this comment.
And we also see that, a couple of days ago, Putin, whether jokingly or not, he endorsed Kamala Harris with a little bit of a grin to his face, because there's been an accusation that he favors one candidate in this, elections, which is Donald Trump. Donald Trump saying that he could have ended the war in Ukraine with one phone call, basically saying that he would leverage his good relationship with Putin to make sure that the war did not happen. Obviously, the fact that the Kremlin is out here debunking that claim is something to to talk about. I'm sure the campaign will have something to say about that. But again, both candidates making their case to the American people. Last night was a night where they were contrasting themselves in a platform that they probably won't have again. And each one decided which course of action they will take, whether being confrontational, just, talking directly to the American people, whether it's spreading conspiracy theories like we had Donald Trump talking about immigrants are eating dogs and cats and puppies, something that, like you alluded, the moderators really did a fine job in debunking some of these quote unquote lies in real time. We this morning, some of commentators on the right saying that Donald Trump was facing off against three people, the two moderators plus Kamala Harris. But again, the previous debates have been, or debater moderators have been criticized for not debunking some of these misconceptions or theories or stereotypes or whatever you want to call it, or lies, for lack of a better term, in real time. And so yesterday, both of them really did a fantastic job, so to say.
Yeah, but they did still receive some criticism for not debunking some of and fact-checking the vice president, some of the claims that she made as to the issue of immigration, the former president referring to Haitians in Ohio, Springfield, Ohio, eating dogs and cats and so on. There were individual reports of this. I mean, some people did go online to report that, they'd seen their pets, with this immigrants. But then, didn't it feel a bit like a betrayal for Donald Trump, the fact that, he had said that, when he said that he would have ended the war in Ukraine with a phone call, I'm sure that he meant a phone call to Putin to dissuade him from going ahead with this war. But then you have a Putin who's surprisingly backing Kamala Harris. That means Donald Trump really has no friends in the East at all.
Right. I don't know whether you would say that the quote unquote Putin endorsing Kamala Harris is actually serious. I think he was just really making fun of the whole process and the fact that he has been accused of supporting Donald Trump. But again, like I said earlier, it was interesting that the Kremlin, one of Putin's top officials came out and said it's not possible to have ended the war in Ukraine with one phone call, which is a strength that Donald Trump has been touting for so many years, that he has the ability to make deals and that he has friends, including Putin, that he can leverage that type of friendship to, either to stop the war in Ukraine or for economic reasons or whatever issues that the world is confronting. And he has always, been saying this in a couple of weeks ago now that there's going to be World War III if he's not elected, because he's the only candidate who can assure the world that, or who has the ability to prevent World War III from happening, which is, a talking point that many people have actually been really not felt it was serious. It was just really something that he's trying to, scare people, scaremongering, which has been a style of his for many years.
Yeah, I had a lot of expectations, for this debate last night. What kind of impression do you think it left on those who are watching from around the world? Right.
From around the world, that's a good question. Well, let's start from here in America. When these candidates are talking at this stage in the election, I think most people have really made up their mind on who they're going to vote, which candidate they're going to vote. So the Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are really speaking to a very small group of people who are kind of on the border, on the fence, the undecided voters in states like, Wisconsin, in North Carolina, in Michigan, all the some of the states that will make an impression or are very key to this election. As of the rest of the world, I think what they were looking for is which candidate has better foreign policy credentials, especially, speaking to some Africans here in the U.S. who say they don't care who wins, whether it's a Democrat or Republican. They want somebody who will speak to African issues more succinctly, more forcefully, and to have a relationship with the continent that is more balanced than what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's not really about the party this time around. It's about the candidates. Thank you again, Jackson. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much.
We'll have more analysis on the debate last night. Plus, at least 2 killed, 100 stranded after severe flooding in Thailand. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching The World Today. We're staying with the debate in the United States last night, and Vice President Kamala Harris made a stop at a watch party just after the debate to address her supporters. She told them today was a good day. We've got to work tomorrow. Her husband, the second gentleman, commended his wife. He said she showed Donald Trump what a true leader looks like.
I started the debate by talking about it, and it became apparent, I think, throughout that about an hour and a half, that, look, this is very much two different visions for our country. Ours, which is a vision for the future, and his, which is about the past and taking us backward. And as I said on the debate stage, we are not going back. We are not going back. And so we know what we're fighting for. We know what we stand for. And that's why we know what we're fighting for. We're fighting for the dignity of all people. We're fighting for the dignity of work. We are fighting for middle-class families. We are fighting to uplift people, understanding the true measure of the strength of a leader is not based on who you beat down, it's based on who you lift up. That's what we stand for. And so we've got some work to do because, listen, I think that we think today was a good day, and it kind of was. But we have 56 days to go, and guys, we're still the underdogs in this race. It's tight. We have got to win Pennsylvania, and we are going to win Pennsylvania. And it is because of you. It is because of you who have signed up, who have volunteered. You are organizing. You're helping us to email and text and knock on doors and talk to your neighbors and your friends. And here's the thing about the spirit of our campaign. It is people-driven. It is about the people. It is about uplifting our country. This is a campaign born out of love of country. We love our country. We believe in who we are. We believe in the American people. This is a campaign about bringing folks together, knowing the vast majority of us have so much more in common than what separates us. Inclusion! It is about inclusion, and it is not about division, and it is not about demeaning and name-calling. It is about lifting folks up, working folks, families, children, people who are just not just trying to get by, but trying to get ahead. That's what we stand for.
As for the former president, he spoke to journalists just outside the debate room at the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia. He said it's been his best debate.
I really don't know. I really don't know. I just say, all I do is say the truth. I say the truth. If I lose votes or gain votes, I don't care. But this was my best debate. I thought it was very good. I thought she was very weak on foreign policy. She was very weak on the border.
Both sides of the debate thought they really did well, and so did their supporters. Harris supporters could not get over the initial handshake that she gave when they both came out on stage. They said she commanded the room. The Republicans still believe, however, that former President Donald Trump will be the best at stopping inflation and the border crisis. With just 8 weeks to go now before the election and days until early voting starts in some states, the debate, the only one scheduled, presented both opportunities and risks for each candidate in front of a televised audience of tens of millions of voters.
From the handshake and the fact she came over and she commanded the room and she put Donald Trump on the defense throughout the entire night, I can't imagine it won't move the needle on those polls.
His message to undecided voters is that he will stop the high prices. He will stop the border invasion. He will stop World War III from breaking out all over the globe. And he will create a greater sense of safety in this country. People don't feel safe in a lot of our major cities, even in small towns right now. And I think he provided that path to change that a lot of the American people are looking for. You get more of the same with Harris, more of the failed Biden policies, more of the high prices, more of the border invasion.
To me, the most important thing is that we see from all the polls what are the two issues that voters care the most about. And nobody disputes this, by the way. Immigration and the economy. All night long, President Trump kept going back to two issues, immigration and the economy. With the economy specifically with inflation. So if you're watching at home, what do you see all night? You see him talking about issues that you and your family care about. She's bringing up like Central Park 5, like real estate deals from the 70s. right? All kinds of obscure things that literally nobody cares about, no voters caring about.
Everybody has a different approach to leadership, and she is clearly not Joe Biden, as you pointed out in your question. She's laying out her vision. She's laying out her plans, her demeanor, her approach to leadership. Every leader is different. And just because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris agree on an issue doesn't make her Joe Biden. It makes her Kamala Harris. And I thought she was a damn good Kamala Harris tonight, and she's going to be a damn good president.
We have more analysis on the debate. Joining me now to discuss is President Emeritus Corporate Counsel of Africa and partner at Gainful Solutions, Stephen Hayes. Thank you for joining us. You're in Washington, D.C. And Global Affairs Analyst Edward Okpa. He's in Dallas, Texas. Gentlemen, a real pleasure having you on the program just hours after the debate. And I hope you're well rested from last night. It was pretty late for us watching here. But let me just begin with your thoughts on how the debate went. What do you think, Stephen?
Well, I think it went very positive for Kamala Harris. I didn't think that would be the case, frankly. I thought Trump would probably dominate, perhaps, because of his experience. But I was very pleasantly surprised that she carried the day in so many ways. I think she was very positive. She was assertive, and I was glad to see that. I felt that her presentation was going to be critical to how the election goes. I still think that, but I think it's also going to be a very, very close election.
Edward, you think that handshake helped her walk just 3 inches taller to the podium where she had to begin the debate with Donald Trump?
Just for this disclosure, I don't think Kamala Harris, made any impressions other than what she was expected to do. Handshake, what is the handshake? Was it a handshake that intimidated Trump? Was it a handshake to say she's a very confident candidate? Or was it a handshake she's a very capable? I mean, these debates don't win elections. The Americans, I didn't even watch the debate because I've already made up my mind. The point is that this is a crucial election. The Democrats have had America for the past 12 years. So they are responsible for 67% of what is wrong with this country. Trump was there for 4 years. So let's see what happens come November 5. So the point is, the campaign is on, and, people have made up their mind. There are people still on the fence who are willing to be persuaded. I am not that kind of person. I know where my interest is. I know what candidate I am going to support. Nothing said in a debate. I ran for Congress. I ran for mayor. If that was the case, I would have been mayor of Dallas because I was one that the Dallas Morning News said I did very well in the debate. So there are sentiments that go with elections and there are emotions that go with it. So Americans will make that decision. We will see the country we want come January 25. Who is going to be that leader? But Kamala Harris is not going to be it.
Well, you might be right, about Americans not really caring much about, who wins a debate. That usually is not, a telltale for who eventually wins the election. But it is important because Kamala Harris has faced criticism about not being on her own, of not owning her own narrative of the kind of policies that she hopes to implement when she becomes president of the United States. And then Trump has been, portrayed as this forceful, brash, dominant figure, in American politics who could easily take on Kamala Harris and who could also take on American politics if he does become president. Stephen?
Okay, sorry.
But since you already started, you could go ahead, Edward. I mean,
no. Look. When you debate a female in America on a national stage as a male, you have to be careful how you approach it because it could be you showing this macho way about men. So Kamala Harris obviously took advantage of that. If you look at when Trump debated what is her name, Hillary Clinton, it was the same thing. Even when Obama was president, Mitt Romney was very careful because again, he was going to be like a white man trying to dominate or trying to, make a black man look all kinds of, way. So all of that doesn't really matter. What matters now is Americans are going to look at when Trump was in office for 4 years. Even with all the things that were thrown at him, he was able to do what most Americans couldn't do in 4 years in office. And now we have the crisis that we have, the border crisis, the inflation, the interest rate. I mean, 4 years ago, we could borrow money at less than 3%. Today, we're doing it somewhere close to 7%. Anybody who's a businessman, especially those of us who are on the Republican side, apart from the Democrats who want government to do things for them and help them and did this stuff, you are struggling because the payment you structured under the 3% is going to be different payment you structured under 7%. So the debate, again, like I said, I didn't watch it. I'm glad it's over with. The campaign is on. We have how many days to go to make that decision? The point is Americans are digesting who do we want to see in that office. The handshake Kamala Harris gave nothing to me. Is she going to do that anywhere? You remember when Condoleezza Rice was Secretary of State? Bush used to send her to go around the world to go shake hands. And what did we do? We still ended up with wars. So
yeah,
again,
Bush was a Republican president. Let's just point that out. Bush was a Republican president, but since you pointed out,
but it was a female situation. Yeah, it was a female. I'm just saying, when she went over there, people were being very careful how they treated her. So she will come in forcefully with a handshake, as if that is what's going to determine the outcome. And so that's what they're coached. That's what they're coached. You be the one to show strength by the hand. But I live here. When I meet female.
Let's move on from the handshake, okay? Obviously, you don't agree with it. That's fine. Stephen does think that, that she portrayed herself as strong and everything. But, you mentioned something that I don't think both candidates answered, and that was the first question in the debate, whether they thought whether America was better off in the last 4 years. Neither candidate answered that question. Stephen, could you help us? Where do you think America is?
Sure. I think it's mixed. I think that, frankly, I think the debate does make a big difference to those in the middle, myself included. I hadn't fully decided who I was going to vote for, as even if it does look like I haven't. But I thought that Kamala Harris presented herself very positive throughout that. The handshake is unimportant to me as well. I think it's more how will she articulate the issues. As far as being better off 4 years ago, there's a lot of factors that go into that. And also, if the American public really wanted Trump in, they would have voted him in the second time. They didn't. So I think it's going to be a very interesting election. I think the election is going to be very close. I think that most people have made up their mind. Obviously, Mr. Akbar has certainly made up his mind. I have now, perhaps, but I think the middle class, and particularly those on the middle undecided vote, are going to make a big difference. I think it's going to make a big difference in the swing states, particularly Pennsylvania. So how that goes, I don't know yet. I think it's going to be a very, very close election. Trump has his followers locked in. Kamala Harris has a certain percentage of Democrats locked in. And so it's going to be the those in the middle and those undecided. There are undecided people, I can attest to that, who haven't made up their mind. So I think last night was very important to people understanding and seeing Kamala Harris in a way they haven't seen her before or haven't known her. So I think this debate does make a difference. I did see it. I looked at it again today after getting some sleep to see how I really felt about it. And I came away far more impressed than I expected to be.
Yes, and you and probably some other undecided voters as well have made up their minds who they're voting for. But I noticed that there were a lot of questions last night, but there were questions on specific issues: the economy, immigration, reproductive rights, and even the COVID pandemic. They touched very briefly on that. But there were a lot of follow-up questions, especially on immigration, on the Trump side. There weren't a lot of follow-up questions for Vice President Kamala Harris. The real answers from either candidates. Do you think there was a lot of deflection? Because I noticed a lot of that last night. But Harris did get enough. She got enough of her positions out. She got enough of her policies out. But we didn't actually hear a lot from Trump about what exactly he was going to do. Edward?
Again, we can spend, ordinary amount of time talking about this back and forth. And then again, for me, election is when the votes are counted and we know who has won. I think the Commission on Presidential Election should, from now on, not have media houses. ABC, CBS host this thing. They should be neutral. They choose it and they invite journalists from all of them to ask questions at the same time. Like, we know ABC is biased, we know CNBC is biased, and all this other. I mean, the Democrats are able to do what they do in America because they have an established media following that supports them. The facts about Kamala Harris is out there. We don't know when she was in California how she got to where she is and all this other stuff. You roll back the tape on her, and you'll find some of the contradictions she made. Everybody's made contradictions. But I don't think Kamala Harris has emerged as that Trojan horse in this derby that we know has a clear way of going to win and get to the finish line. Whatever Mr. Hayes is saying, he's a corporate counselor on Africa. He cannot come out and be very open about what he's saying. I have a political bias. He can't say it because he's an employee of an organization. And I'm surprised a white man is supporting the Corporate Council for Africa. Again, these are some of the things that I am very sensitive to. No, let me finish what I'm saying. Corporate Council of Africa, what is it that they're doing that a black man or an African native cannot do it, but we're going to have somebody like Mr. Hayes go over there, in Washington, D.C., telling African countries what to do. My point is that this election will be decided. I'm glad I said this in front of you, Mr. Hayes. My thing is that come November 5, we'll find out who Americans are going to vote for. He's undecided. Kamala Harris has impressed him. Maybe that's where he's going to vote, but he can say it publicly because, again, he represents an organization, that's supposed to be neutral.
Stephen, you want to respond?
Yes, of course. I haven't been with the Corporate Council for 7 years. I can say anything that I want, which is why I welcome going on at no cost, no payments to Nigerian television. They give me that. So I can say anything I want to. I don't represent the Corporate Council. I'm called President Emeritus because they honor me for my service. But I work privately. So I think this is why I am often on, because I speak very freely on this. I can say anything I want, and that's just ridiculous. Also, you're talking about the record. The Corporate Council now is run by an African American, but I think race has little to do with things. So anyway, I think that's ridiculous. Anyway,
no, it's not ridiculous. It's not ridiculous because it's not ridiculous because look, for the fact that you have been there, I'm just saying, tell me organizations that are all Anglo that white black people are running. Our Corporate Council of Africa, I know the history of it. I know when they were started and what they have done. If we're going to go on that stuff, I want to debate you on what Corporate Council in Africa has done, and I'll tell you that they have not done anything. They have just created an image to appear as this white Jesus who's going to go save Africans. Africans are in a position to save themselves. They have to recognize that everything coming from Washington, D.C. hasn't benefited Africa. If it is, how come the poverty level in Africa it is where it is? So again, let's talk about this. But I'm willing to debate you, Mr. Hayes, in person, both in Washington, D.C. and then in Africa about the role of corporate council.
We're not going to fight about this. This isn't a debate about both of you. This is a debate about the U.S.
I just want to inject that. I want to put that in there. I want to put that in there.
You know what? We'll give you a chance, both of you. You come on in your debates, the Council for Africa. I'm afraid we have to go now on a break. Thank you both for joining us on the program. I'm sure that we'll have many more conversations. November's just weeks away, so there's still opportunity for all of that. Stephen Hayes, appreciate your joining us on the program, and you're always willing to be here on Channels Television. Edward Oppa, appreciate your analysis as well. Thank you both for coming on The World Today.
Thank you.
An honor. Thank you.
We're off on another break now on the program. Still ahead. Well, workers at Kenya's airport protesting the takeover by a foreign corporation as the airport says it has, authorities say they have no money to fix infrastructure. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's a struggle to get essential supplies to stricken villages in Vietnam as Typhoon Yagi continues to sweep through the Southeast Asian nation. Boats are navigating flooded roads to bring much-needed aid to stranded residents as rescue teams evacuated residents in the industrial city of Tay Nguyen, around 80 kilometers from Hanoi, the capital. Asia's strongest typhoon this year is still causing deadly floods and landslides, killing dozens and ravaging infrastructure such as power networks and roads after it hit the coast over the weekend. At least 152 people are now known to have died from Typhoon Yagi and subsequent landslides and floods as a result. 140 more are still missing. The Vietnam capital, Hanoi, schools have told students to stay home for the rest of the week, while thousands of residents living in low-lying areas have been evacuated. It's no different in Thailand, where at least 2 people have died, hundreds more stranded after heavy rain swept through 2 northern provinces, swelling rivers, inundating settlements and triggering mudslides. In the Mae Sai district of neighboring Chiang Rai province, which borders Myanmar, rubber boats were unable to reach some flooded areas where hundreds were stuck and awaiting help. According to officials, the adverse weather, which comes in the wake of Typhoon Yagi, the most powerful storm in Asia this year, has impacted about 9,000 households in Thailand already. And here in Nigeria, the governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Zulum, has confirmed over 1 million people have been affected by the recent floods. The governor, who disclosed this earlier today, donated cash to displaced persons taking refuge at the Bakassi IDP camp along Biu-Damboa Road in Maiduguri, the state capital. He said food items and other basic necessities will be provided, while vendors have been contracted to feed them while in camp. Professor Zulum also confirmed receipt of a flood intervention fund of 3 billion naira from the federal government, which will be used to address the challenges.
This isn't a typical day in Maiduguri, the state capital of Borno State, as flood waters have disrupted the peace of residents. It may not be raining at the moment, but major roads, houses, and shops within Maiduguri metropolis and parts of Jere local government area have been submerged following extended rains. The Shehu's Palace, University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital, Sandan Kiarimi Park Zoo are some of the affected places. Quite disturbing also is the incident of a prison break attributed to the flood waters. Some inmates are feared drowned, while several others may have escaped from the facility located along customs area. Major roads within the state capital, including Post Office Roundabout, which links major locations in the capital, are flooded, thereby cutting off vehicular movement within the metropolis. The Abaganaram, Tashambama, Custom Road, Monday Market, Bamuru Market, Custom Area Cattle Market, in Old Maiduguri, Gwange area, Lagos Street are some of the communities severely affected. The Maiduguri Zoo, popularly known as Sandan Kiarimi Zoo Park, is flooded too. A statement from the general manager, Ali Abacha, says 8% of the animals in the zoo have been killed by the flood, while the others have escaped into the city capital. Meanwhile, some kids are making the most of the bad situation by taking a dip to cool off. Not sure of what's next, hundreds of residents living along water channel have been displaced, forcing emergency migration on them. For now, all the dry parts of the state have become cities of refuge, and finding such refuge under trees on major roads. Apart from high-level rainfall being experienced this year, The flood, according to reports, is occasioned by a major leakage of the bank of Alom Dam, a major source of water supply to Maiduguri, which draws its source from River Ngada in Cameroon and the Lake Chad. While government at the state and federal levels are setting up buffers and relief for displaced persons, the waiting for reprieve will continue for now.
And we have joining us from Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, founder, Advocacy for Human Value, Fatima Habib. She has been on the ground working with those displaced from the floods. Fatima, thank you for joining us on the program. We don't understand the network is a bit challenging where you are, but we're trying to make sense of this conversation somehow. Could you tell us what you have seen and experienced on the ground in Borno State?
Good day, everyone. It is a terrible situation here in Borno. We have been trying to evacuate people from various places. There are several places that we are unable to reach because of the fact that it is the water level is high at the chest level. So it has become very terrible for us to say that we are unable to reach these people. We are trying and reaching out to authorities, posting on our Facebook pages and on our Instagram for people to come and talk so that helicopters can be sent to those people. Food can be sent to them as well, because there are people in 505 access that have not eaten for the past 3 days. They have been surviving with dirty waters. There are women that have given birth. There are women that have gone through labor while experiencing this traumatizing experience. There are several of children that have died because of lack of food, because of the water, and all of the terrible things that it is.
So, Fatima, we understand the governor was there earlier today, and he did donate food. He donated cash to those in the camps. How much of a help is that to those on the ground?
At the moment, what I want to say is it's no more about the matter of donating cash. It's no more the matter of donating food. It is the matter of people surviving. So it's the matter of removing them out of the trap that they are in. Because there are lots of people that are trapped in their houses. There are people that their houses have reached the water level that they had to even be on the roof of their houses. So I think the best thing to do now is to evacuate these people immediately. It is no more the matter of sharing food. It is no more the matter of sharing cash, because if you do not survive, those things they do not matter at all. And most of the IDP camps, most of the places that we are taking people are already full. So some of the people are sleeping on the road. As you can see, let me, in camera, I cannot go close because of the noises, but these are the IDPs. Most of the people are displaced at the moment. Everywhere is congested. There are a lot of traffic because of the fact that people are trekking. They are trekking to reach their destination, and that destination is no destination because the pumps that they have has the water, the flooding has stole that from them.
Yes, we unfortunately we're not able to see the pictures that you're trying to show us, but we do have videos from Borno State. So your foundation is on the ground, Fatima, and you're trying to help people. What exactly are you doing?
Yes. So my foundation, we have been working tirelessly since the day the thing happened by 3 a.m. going to those places that we think we can help, because the trucks, most of the cars are actually scared to even go in. So we had trucks to go in and remove people out of the people were able to, the children, which are the most
right. Fatima,
mothers and the sick.
No, go on. Oh dear. Unfortunately, we have lost connection with Fatima. Fatima Habib is a founder, Advocacy for Human Value. She's on the ground in Maiduguri, Borno State, trying to help those people stranded by the floods that have taken over much of the state. To other stories now. Anti-war protesters and police have clashed outside a defense exhibition in Australia's second largest city of Melbourne. Dozens were arrested by police. They used sponge grenades, flashbang devices and irritant sprays to control parts of the crowd. Chief Commissioner of Victoria Police Shane Patton says 24 police officers required medical treatment. 39 had been arrested for offences including assaulting, obstructing or hindering police, arson and blocking roads. To Kenya now, where hundreds of passengers have been stranded at the main airport as workers protest against a planned takeover by an Indian business group. Workers launched a Go Slow, where staff deliberately work slowly to cause disruption in a stand against proposals to lease JKIA, that's the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, to the Adani Group for 30 years. The Aviation Workers Union argues the deal is opaque and could lead to job losses. However, the government has defended the proposal, saying the airport is operating beyond capacity and needs private investment to upgrade it. Just outside of the airport itself this morning, this was, what passengers met. Large crowds lamenting flight delays and cancellations for both departing and arriving passengers. That's where we'll leave it on The World Today. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.